policy and rights here on the News Media Radio. I'm your host, Michael Clogs. In this next episode, let's get down to it, basically. We're going to hear from David Eby as we're talking about cleaner energy, and the president of BC Hydro, the province's energy company, is stepping down, and there's going to be a new president who's going to actually step in. And we're going to hear more about how clean projects and clean energy for the state of British Columbia is actually going to come about. And during this press conference, David Eby was also asked about some of the projects that are happening on a federal level to build a stronger Canada and to help Canada be united in a lot of different ways. And one of the things that is going to be brought up is about how the federal government is supporting a subsidy for lower ferry fares and toll bridges in the Atlantic region. Atlantic Canada is getting a subsidy so that people who live and commute away from maritime provinces, and especially PEI, are getting a subsidy for their ferries, and they're getting a subsidy for their tolls. And it makes sense in a lot of different ways. It does actually make sense. But David Eby brought up something that is true, and Danielle Smith has also brought this up, about how British Columbia and Alberta are taxed to equalize things out, so that the commerce that is brought about in two of the most commercially productive provinces in Canada, that an equalization that is paid back into the federal government so that they can produce these programs to help the Maritimes and Atlantic Canada provinces fare out better, so that these tolls can be lowered, and so that the ferry fares can also be lowered also. So the folks in British Columbia, we also have ferries, and that there are no subsidies. And in fact, when it came time to actually have a new ferry built for BC Ferries, that they actually had to go to an Asian company instead of finding a shipbuilding company here in Canada to build a ferry to support those needs, in which case that also meant that there weren't any subsidies being put forward to help purchase that ferry also. There are also, of course, other questions that were asked of David Eby, because they asked his opinion around the August 1st impending Trump tariffs, as they are supposed to be put in place on August 1st. And that leads us into also, we're going to hear from Stephen Harper as he talks about from the standpoint of a former prime minister. As you remember, he was the prime minister before Justin Trudeau, and he talks about the importance of having a good relationship with the United States, as he has talked in Saskatoon and a Midwestern legislative conference, talking about how it is important to have that good commerce relationship with our neighbors to the south, which it is important, but it shouldn't be so important that it hurts the Canadian economy, and it keeps the Canadian economy completely dependent upon what is happening in the United States. So, yes, on one hand, yeah, we do actually need to make sure that we play nice with our neighbors. We play nice with Mexico. We play nice with the United States, and that there is a line of relations because we need to be allies because we're neighbors. It doesn't bode too well to have a enemy be your neighbor. Just ask Russia and Ukraine that question, and I'm sure that people will answer that it would be better if our neighbors are our allies. Where a slightly different example of that also asks Israel and Palestine what it is like to have your enemy be your neighbor. Um, so it's good that we have our ally be our neighbor, and that be the United States, and also that being uh, Mexico. And to be a good neighbor, that also means issues around the Arctic region and keeping our part of the Pacific and the Atlantic safe, and making it easy and accessible for tourists and trade to actually happen by building these bridges and ferries and everything that link Canada together. The more linked together Canada is, the easier it is for us to trade among the provinces. But it also makes it easy to get trade back out of the country, so that um, commerce is easy to deal with. So yeah, it is a good thing. We're also going to hear from Prince Edward Island, as there is a press conference about those tolls and those ferries. And we're going to hear from the premier of Prince Edward Island, as he is internally grateful for what the federal government is doing to produce funding that helps lower those tolls and those ferry fares, so that they can get Prince Edward Island can actually get commerce in, and commuters in and out of their province, because there are people that actually work. They may live in Prince Edward Island, but they may work in, say, Nova Scotia, New Brunswick, or Quebec. So they need that access. It's understandable, and it was also a campaign promise to build that sort of infrastructure for the Atlantic region of Canada. So it is a promise made in Prince Edward Island, and a promise kept to Prince Edward Island by Mark Carney. And you're also going to hear, of course, Chrystia Freeland, as she also is discussing the importance of a strong Atlantic Canada. So it's not necessarily a bad thing. It is a very good thing to subsidize these particular fares and tolls, so that people can move back and forth easily and affordably. But at the same time, when we look back across at British Columbia, should there not be a subsidy to help people go back and forth from the Gulf Islands to the mainland British Columbia, so that there is it's easy to move trade, it is easy to move commerce back and forth, and people and commuters back and forth across the Gulf area of British Columbia, between those islands in British Columbia, for the same exact reasons that it's happening on the Atlantic. Should the Pacific get that same exact treatment? And it is a really good question, and it would be a good answer from Mark Carney of how he plans to help British Columbia um, solve some of the problems of commuting back and forth. So, why don't we go ahead and we're going to start listening. Um, we're going to start off with why we need a good relationship with the United States in the opinion of the former um, Prime Minister, conservative Prime Minister, Stephen Harper.